haven't learned by now, there is a big difference between being a good neighbor versus an engaged one.
It's an important distinction, and we're talking with David Burton about what sets the two apart, plus tips on how you can get more involved with those who live around you, especially if you're not a people person.
Well, we've been talking on KY3 about what it means to be an engaged neighbor versus a good neighbor, and I have the community development specialist, David Burton with Greene County. Hey again.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you.
Good to have you back. So we've been talking a lot about what makes an engaged neighbor. What if the community you're in is such a quiet little community that they don't talk to each other? What happens?
Yeah, well, that may be a descriptor of a lot of neighborhoods and communities around us, right? So in that case, you're the one that needs to be the spark. There was a song in the 1970s, it only takes a spark to get the fire going. So you need to be the spark. It just takes that little bit of change, a little bit of motivation. And really, scientists will say, you know, a little bit of change over a long period of time leads to a big difference. But you may need to be the spark. And so I've seen different people who have been sparks here in Springfield and elsewhere. I think of Alyssa Lindsay, who lives in downtown Springfield, and noticed there wasn't a lot of greenery or flowers growing, and so she took it upon herself, and she used a grant from Extension to do a field of sunflowers.
Oh, wow.
It was on McDaniel Street the first year, and this year it's over on Main, and so it's just a little pocket of sunflowers that brings joy and beauty to the area.
Would you say it was a pocket full of sunshine?
It was. That was. Sing a few bars there. That's great.
I love it.
And then I think of my friend Sandy on the south side of Springfield. She got a grant from Extension for a neighborhood. And this is going to sound funny. She wanted to start a women's bunco club. I don't know if you play bunco or not.
I don't even know what that is.
And it's a card game, I think.
Okay.
And she kind of explained the idea, and so we thought, sure, we'll try that. And now she has 12 ladies that get together every week and they play bunco. They're forming those relationships among neighbors. But as a result of that, those ladies have organized some events in the neighborhood for everybody.
Oh, wow.
And then this summer they organized and helped with a kids' parade, July 4th parade in their neighborhood. So it led to something else, right, with these relationships. So that was she's a spark. I can think of Carolyn over at I believe it's Ingram Mill Villa. It's a 55 and older area, and she used a mini grant to build some raised bed gardens. And so those gardens now become sort of a focal point of that neighborhood, that community, where they can go and do gardening together and pick vegetables. It's become a place that people walk to and hang out at and have conversations. So it gives a central point of gathering.
It gives a little joy to people.
It gives a little joy to people, but each of those decide to be a spark in a bigger way, you know, beyond just learning their neighbors' names and using the names, which are very important. They took it up an additional step to be a spark.
They definitely took that to a new level. What if someone wants to be kind of a smaller spark? What can they do?
Well, really, you know, I typically recommend being a smaller spark, right? You don't want to overcommit yourself, and sometimes these smaller sparks get some traction and become a bigger thing, or sometimes you realize, nobody's excited about that like I am, and you can try something different. But there are all sorts of ideas about how you meet with your neighbors, and really, I think Missouri Good Neighbor Week provides you with one of those opportunities. This gives you an excuse to take that proverbial plate of cookies across the street, introduce yourself to your neighbors, be a spark in that way. If you've not already met them, write down their information, write it on your refrigerator someplace where you won't forget it so you can remember their names, and maybe be a spark in that way in building those connections. If you already know all of your neighbors, then maybe you can be a spark by having a soup potluck in the garage, or maybe your friends like to do barbecue, have a barbecue cook-off, or you know, something fun that involves your neighbors in a fun way. We do have to get up off the couch and step outside and do some of these things, or you know, maybe, dare I say, put down the smartphone and go out the front door and build some of these connections face to face.
Socialize a little bit, even if you're an introvert. Just go out, introduce yourself.
Yes.
Pretty easy.
Yes, and start developing that social capital, and that's you know, if you don't know your neighbors, you don't know the gifts and talents that exist around you or the things they do, and they may be great connections, or you may be a great connection for them to know in the community as well.
Well, David, this is some great advice. Where can people find more information about these principles?
Yeah, on our website, engageneighbor.com. You can find the pledge that you can take for the Engage Neighbor principles, or of course, MissouriGoodNeighborWeek.com.
Sounds great. And if you have any more questions about Missouri Good Neighbor Week, go to ky3.com. David, thanks so much.
Thank you.